But before that, that documentary that we're talking about, Showtime in Kashmir, Aditya's the journalist behind that particular documentary piece. Take a look at this snippet, understand what we're talking about, and then we'll open the discussion up.
Kashmir and movies together were magic. A magic that gave us Shammi Kapoor and Sharmila Tagore's Kashmir Ki Kali in 1964, Jangli in 1961, Roti, Daag, Kabhi Kabhi, Bobby, Janwar, as well as Bemisal.
सिनेमा और कश्मीर का बहुत गहरा रिश्ता है, घनिष्ठ जिसे हिंदी में कहते हैं।
इतनी खूबसूरत ये तस्वीर है, मौसम बेमिसाल बेनजीर है, ये कश्मीर है।
This was a love letter across the Dal Lake, the snow-capped mountains of Gulmarg, the majestic Chinars, and the beauty of Pahalgam. This was Kashmir in all its glory in 70 mm silver screens across India and the world. Terrorist groups, bombs and grenade attacks left millions dead, displaced, with shattered silver screens across Kashmir.
अप्रैल 1993 की बात है जब ये इलाका सब जल गया।
Today, after 32 years of conflict and terror, it's a new dawn for Kashmiris. The first multiplex in the valley, Inox, has risen from the ashes of the cinemas lost to rekindle the same love of Kashmir and its cinema halls in a young generation that has never had the movie watching experience in a theatre.
Cinema in Kashmir is as old as the Bollywood itself. The first theatre in Kashmir opened, that's Palladium itself, in 1932.
Some of the most romantic films have been shot here. जब फूल खिले, आरजू. जब फूल खिले had Mahmood playing a houseboat owner, a comic, of course, character. His iconic signature song from that movie is still etched in the memory of that generation. Ya ilahi, मिटना जहां दी ददरे दिल।
सरजमीन हिंदुस्तान को बादशाह खान का सलाम।
इसी पैलेडियम सिनेमा के आगे यहाँ इसका शो और इसका लोगों का आना जाना यहाँ तांता बंधा रहता था। इतनी भीड़ होती थी कि लोगों को कंट्रोल करने के लिए पुलिस बुलाया जाता था।
There were threats, there were dictates from everyone. It's not only the militants and separatists, everyone. The first dictate was published in local newspapers in August, I think 18th of August 1989. Those days, a number of organizations used to be in a campaign against the cinema, against every entertainment media, including beauty parlors, these audio kiosks and everything, whatever was there. They thought that this fashion and everything, this should be banned, it should not be there.
It's not just films. There were no sports facilities. There were no malls. So imagine a youth growing up with no avenues of entertainment. It's crazy. I can't even imagine living in such an environment.
It is really tragic and sad that, when people don't allow something very normal, which is around the world. You go to Dubai, they have cinema halls, for God's sake. You go everywhere else, they enjoy entertainment. Everybody wants to be entertained. Why not? What else do we have in life?
कैसी हो तुम फिरदौस? 1 साल से आवाज नहीं आई। कैसी हो तुम फिरदौस? चिनार कैसा है? शिकारे कैसे हैं? कैसी हो तुम फिरदौस?
Well, I'm going to take this opportunity, at this juncture to plug in a little marketing gimmick here as well. News 9 Plus application, you can download it on your mobile phones, on your televisions. It's got an 18 million plus reach. We've got incisive analysis and cutting edge documentaries across the spectrum. It's not just entertainment or politics. We've got sports, well, you name it. And in the time that you have, this is something that I can promise. I've not been asked to do this. And we all have, Sony Live, Netflix, you name the application, you have it on your phone. Why not just one more? I promise you, we're not going to disappoint you. On that note, Aditya, man behind the documentary, a very neatly, nicely done documentary, did, take a lot of viewers back there. I was speaking to some elderly in my family. I showed them the documentary piece and they said it's really nicely done. People should talk about this. These are obscure topics that people don't necessarily know about. And for somebody like me, who was born in 1995, doesn't really know as much of, the golden era of filmmaking in the Kashmir Valley. It was certainly an eye-opener. Let me just quickly introduce the panel. Nirupama Kotru, former Joint Secretary for Culture, INB Ministry. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. We've got Vikas Dhar with us, who's the owner of Inox in Srinagar. Very warm welcome to you, sir. And Dr. Suneem Khan, sir, वो जो आपने पंक्तियां गाई थी उस डॉक्यूमेंट्री में, वो बहुत ही ज़्यादा खूबसूरत, बहुत ही उम्दा. He's a cinema enthusiast. I'm also learning that he's actually a doctor with the CRPF, and he's a cinema enthusiast. Your opinion is certainly going to be, very precious. I will open the discussion up, but first and foremost, to the man in the studio with me. Aditya, I know that you love Kashmir. You've been doing various kinds of stories from all facets and factors. Why did you think this is also something that people should know about? I love the contrast that, you showed like a rundown cinema theater with those broken chairs, but now the sound of, those pellet guns firing, the smoke bombs and extremist sloganeering, that's again being replaced with whistles and entertainment, isn't it?
Absolutely, Kabir. When I first heard about cinema halls in Kashmir and when I first visited Kashmir, I was really curious to know, where are the cinema halls? What about art? What about the liberal arts, the theatre that we see often all across the country? And I was told by my parents, by my grandparents, that we used to go to watch films of Amitabh Bachchan, Shashi Kapoor, Raj Kapoor and others. But when I first visited Srinagar, I didn't see any cinema halls. I asked the local people there, how do you watch cinema? And they said, we go to Jammu, we go to Delhi, or sometimes we watch it on the television or OTT. So why was the local population in Kashmir not allowed to watch this cinema for all these 30 to 35 years, was the question that used to haunt me time and again. So when I visited Kashmir, I visited all these old cinema halls from Shiraz to Neelam. We took permission to shoot inside these cinema halls as well, and it was painful because cinema had a very deep rooted culture in Kashmir. Today we see for open air there is a huge rush, and Vikas obviously will elaborate on that. That it's a historic development really in the last 35 years, but it was important to tell the people that Kashmir has had a very important history with cinema, not just with Bollywood and Hollywood, and hundreds of actors and directors used to come to Kashmir to shoot through the 60s, 70s and 80s, but this culture needs to be revived. And not just Inox Srinagar of Vikas and Vijay Dhar, but there should be more cinema halls that should come in. There should be more local population of Kashmir that should invest in Bollywood. Why not? Because they are very creative people and they should get all the opportunities. So that was our biggest motivation, to tell the story of the last 35 years. But here is a glimmer of hope with Inox opening up, a Kashmiri Pandit showing the way forward. And I'm glad that 3 of the panelists have joined us from this documentary, from this Kashmir circle, and perhaps you can take the discussion forward.
Right, absolutely. Let's go right across to the cinema owner amongst us. Dhar Saab, first and foremost, Oppenheimer, Barbie, I mean, people can't stop talking about these particular movies. What's the footfall like over there? Because had this Inox been, opened up in any other part of the country, people would talk about, how this is a great business opportunity. But considering it's happening in the Valley, it is a bold step. So kudos to you for that. And just give us a sense of how it feels like going to the cinema today in Kashmir.
Well, it's actually a fantastic feeling. It's like I've been saying, it's an educational experience for us as well, because Oppenheimer, to get this kind of a footfall was not expected. I know a lot of people had been, asking us on social media, etc., as to when are you bringing Oppenheimer? Please don't skip Kashmir when the worldwide, release happens. And we did release it with the rest of the world, with the rest of India, and people have taken to it. There are fans of Cillian Murphy, there are fans of Christopher Nolan. They know a lot about the director, what all movies he's done. Barbie's taken off. I see people in all hues of pink, not just girls, but boys coming in pink clothes to watch Barbie. So it's actually very exciting. And I must tell you right now, all three of the movies that we are playing are Hollywood films. There's Mission Impossible, Barbie, and Oppenheimer,
Wow.
and all three doing quite well. Quite well.
Well, absolutely. Let's quickly cut across to a former government voice with us on the broadcast as well. Nirupama Kotru, former Joint Secretary for Culture and, a Director, the Film Division for the Ministry of I&B. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Ma'am, your outlook. In the documentary as well, there are certain portions where, this resident is talking about how इतनी भीड़ हो जाती थी, इतना तर्जुमा इतना लोगों का बढ़ गया कि पुलिस को आना पड़ा. They had to control the crowd, disperse the crowd sometimes. That's how people enjoyed entertainment in the Valley. But at the same time, there are some negative aspects to that as well. There's always the possibility of running into the same quarters again. Do you think that is something that people have to now tread carefully with?
See, at the outset, I want to first congratulate Vikas and the Dhar family, because they've really done a brilliant job. It's
Certainly.
really a land for all of us, for an entrepreneur to come forward and do this. So I'm hoping that, like the thumbs up ad in the 80s, happy days are here again. So I'm really hopeful that this is going to catch on. There will be many more theaters opening. Of course, Oppenheimer, as you know, there's been a lot of discussion. As somebody who's a cinephile, I want to tell you, Nolan has a lot of fans in India. And obviously, Kashmiris are also fans of Nolan. It's no surprise. He's a director known to, give a lot of thought to the way he shoots his films. So I hope next time Kashmiris will get to watch his films in IMAX. But it's also heartening to know Barbie is doing well. I believe Pathan had done well, and Shah Rukh's next release, Jawan, is going to possibly also do well. So, the initial bit of hesitancy, I think, is going away now, because if you remember, after COVID, there was something which is called revenge dining, and we see the same thing in going to films. This weekend has been phenomenal all over India, if you've seen reports. It's really phenomenal, and not just India. Let me tell you, I was just reading this box office expert in California, I think his name is Tom Brugman, said that this weekend is a landmark because people have really given their stamp of approval for fresh content, originality. And both these directors, Greta Gerwig and Christopher Nolan, of course, they're known to really put in hard work. They've co-written their films. So
Right.
it's been a brilliant weekend for the whole world.
No, no kidding, ma'am. You're absolutely right. I mean,
Yes.
I've been trying to catch hold of a couple of tickets for Oppenheimer in the national capital, and it's certainly an uphill task. And you don't want to. You'd rather watch, Christopher Nolan in all its magnanimity. I wish there were some screens that could do justice to the kind of film he's used while shooting it as well. But that's certainly a different debate. Nirupama ji, in the documentary, there's something really interesting that you pointed out. You said, think about the youth. The youth had nothing to do. There wasn't any sports. For a youth that's growing up, it has to go out. It has to, be more sociable than it was in let's say the last decade or 15 years or so. Do you think we finally turned a new leaf in that aspect?
Absolutely. 30 years, you can imagine, in the 80s, when slowly filmmakers stopped coming to the valley because of security reasons. I think one of the last films shot there was in '88, Joshile, if I remember correctly. Vinod Khanna and the whole crew were there. And, there were small incidents of militancy at that time. So a bomb blast here and something here, and things started getting really bad. So obviously a filmmaker can't put his crew and cast's lives in jeopardy, right? So they stopped coming there. So that was a big blow to every Kashmiri, because we've grown up seeing these big film units come and stay there. I mean, every filmmaker worth his salt, especially the 70s, if you remember, Gulzar Saab came with Andhi crew, and Rishikesh Mukherjee, Bemisal, of course, was shot there. And Satya Pe Satta, one of the biggest blockbusters of Amitabh Bachchan, was shot there. And all the films were very warmly received because Kashmiris were so happy. I mean, and Kashmiri hospitality is renowned. So everybody who came to Kashmir, the units, they were thrilled. It was always like a party for them, And this I've heard from people who have worked in these units, the filmmakers, the film stars. You talk to anybody who has come to Kashmir as part of a film unit. They loved it. And people loved them back. People were very hospitable, very warm. And that warmth really translates into good cinema. So then when, obviously the audience connects very well with it. I mean, Kashmiris were really fond of films. So they're deprived of films for 30 years. So this is my generation, my parents' generation, and our, the children, the younger generation was completely deprived because 30 years you had nothing.
Absolutely, ma'am. You've hit the nail right on its head, and I don't think anybody could have put that better to be thinking about the youth in the valley as well. We also have with us a cinema enthusiast, Dr. Suneem Khan. Doctor, first and foremost, let's do away with this smiling bit. What was the latest movie that you went for? How did you like it? Was it a Bollywood film? Was it a Hollywood film?
The latest movie that I saw was Pathaan. And it was not in INOX because I was in Jammu back then. So I saw it in Jammu.
All right.
But I was actually monitoring the response of Kashmiris to the release of Pathaan. Vikas would bear me out. I had a series of conversations with him. We had a series of exchange of notes on WhatsApp on the rush of cinegoers to INOX Srinagar. And I was absolutely thrilled and delighted.
So and at the same time, Dr. Suneem Khan, now that we know that, the last movie that you saw was a Bollywood film and you're a cinema goer yourself, the idea of reviving cinema in the Kashmir Valley, what kind of challenges do you think it's going to come up with? I mean, because we must talk about the challenges as well. Not everything should be hunky-dory. Let's take a look at what challenges might prop up in the days to come.
Usually, to understand the challenges, first of all, you have to come to the point from a certain trajectory. You have to understand that cinema has always been a part of the lives of Kashmiris right since the inception of the word cinema, especially in the Indian context I'm talking about, the Bollywood context I'm talking about. The inception of insurgency in 1989 until this point in time, when the cinema returned to Kashmir after a hiatus of 32 years. Kashmiris always yearned for the other part of the soul by traveling as long as 300 kilometers right down to Jammu and watching their favorite films on big screen and then on mobile phones with the advent of 4G and 5G and so on and so forth. So it was always a part of their lives, a part of their existence, a part of their soul, if I'm not oversaying it. So coming to the point where you questioned me about the challenges that we are going to face is basically we have to make sure that there is no there was something at play in early 90s, 89-90, when the cinemas actually were shut down.
Right.
I, in my own way, would like to call it as tyranny of minority. It was a very handful of people with a great nuisance quotient who made sure that cinemas, bars, beauty parlors, audio kiosks, etc., anything that had to do with entertainment and fashion was shut down, which means that you kill all the avenues of entertainment of the population and more specifically the youth. So we have to make sure that the tyranny does not, catch on to that nuisance quotient, and it does not play over the thinner population, which is a huge number, as Nirupamaji rightly said. Very hospitable people, very cultured people. They have a life. They are a civilization. I mean, very colorful civilization with a life, with a culture, with a very rich history. You don't have to actually, let that tyranny of minority play over again and create hiccups in the proliferation of cinema.
That's actually a very good point, Dr. Suneem, that you've put forth. But, Aditya, echoing on that point, Dr. Suneem's talking about that particular campaign, against entertainment, art, literature, these kind of galleries, cinema halls. We saw those visuals ourselves. Do you think that impacted the storytelling? I mean, the onset of terror in the 1990s in the valley, disrupting, derailing cinema completely. Did you think that impacted the storytelling of the valley as well?
Of course it did, because the Bollywood was only focused on one aspect, which is conflict and nothing more. There were several other human interest stories or stories of love, romance that could have been captured in Kashmir, but
they wouldn't sell as much.
They wouldn't sell as much, or nobody shows the interest in it. Nobody had the courage, in fact, to go to Kashmir in these 30 years and shoot, apart from a rare, Mission Kashmir and a couple of others. But the larger aspect here is that there were threats, there were diktats, there were fatwas issued by radical Islamist organizations, including Hizbul Mujahideen, Al-Fatah and others, saying that anybody who goes to cinema hall will be targeted. In fact, I remember in 1999 when Regal and a couple of other cinema halls were opened, on the very first day, there were grenade attacks on them. But this time around, after the 370 abrogation, the government took a call. Of course, the private sector came in. There was the Vijay Dar family, which is of course a very historical family. We know about Mr. D.P. Dar and the philanthropist that he was, and of course his son Vijay Dar, and now Vikas taking that tradition forward. So they had the courage to establish this, because it's not just about money. It's about the courage of conviction, of actually establishing it and standing by it, because there is fear of an attack, there is security outside, and there is still a lot of confidence that needs to be instilled in the local population that you can go freely. Nobody is going to touch you. There are security forces, entire India is behind you, and cinema will be a success story in the Kashmir Valley, no matter what now. Nobody can stop it.
Well, you know what, personally, and to all the panelists that are listening to me here as well, I do sometimes get this eerie feeling when I'm inside a train, when I'm inside a plane, when I'm inside a cinema hall as well. The act of carrying out a terrorist attack, always, it's always a lingering fear in the human mind. I mean, certainly with me, that's certainly the case. And even in the national capital, where people think it's so safe to go for a movie, you'd feel a little, there's always a chance of anything happening, and the imagination certainly goes wild. But I understand what you're talking about, and kudos to the people who are going to these to the cinema hall as well. It takes a lot. First, it takes a lot to build this particular cineplex, which Mr. Dhar has done beautifully, and secondly, to also convince the people to come out and step out. So the public has met Mr. Dhar halfway, it seems. They're also coming out. A lot of cinema fans in the newsroom as well. I'm getting messages from the newsroom. This quirky little piece of information for all the viewers watching the stream. Muzaffar Ali, maker of Amrao Jan, had announced a film titled Zuni in the late 80s with Dimple and late Vinod Khanna, but could never make it owing to trouble. So, another reason that we lost out on this movie Zuni. Maybe it would have been a super hit. Well, who knows? Meanwhile, Karan Johar, the director in conversations on page 3s, on all sorts of magazines, he's given a reaction. I think he's done with a little bit of shooting in Kashmir, it seems.
That's right.
And he's thanked. Well, you know what? Let's play out that reaction and we'll come back for more.
Hi, this is me, Karan Johar, and I want to share my immense gratitude to Vijay Dhar Saab. Thank you so much for your love and support. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you to the people of Kashmir for giving us so much love. And in our own small way, we've showcased the beauty and the gorgeousness of Kashmir in our film Rocky Aur Rani Ki Prem Kahani, which releases on the 28th of July. And I hope you all watch it with your families on the opening weekend. Sending you a lot of love, and thank you, Vijay Dhar Saab. Thank you again.
Well, Mr. Dhar, Would you like to react to what Karan Johar here is, talking about, thanking Mr. Vijaydhar with all his heart? But whilst you're, sort of like giving us a reaction to his reaction, also help us understand how you envision to create this experience more safe in the days to come for your, viewers who are thronging the cinemas.
So, firstly, thank you to Karan Johar Saab, Nirupama ji, all the other panelists, Aditya, Sunim Khan Saab, for the kind words they've said. The fact of the matter is that we do have extreme safety in the cinema hall. As far as the government is concerned, they have given us wonderful security there. I also feel, we have to also understand that it's not the default option in the minds of the Kashmiris right now. What do we do on a Saturday evening, or what do we do in the evening with the family? Let's go out for a movie. That's what everyone else in the rest of the country would say. But here, that's perhaps one of the things that we have to grow on. As far as I also want to touch on something interesting, which Nirupama ji and Aditya touched on, how Kashmir is coming back into the movies and how kind and generous the people of Kashmir. We recently had a special showing for a movie called Mahaviran. And Mahaviran is actually a Tamil movie which is very, very popular down south. And nobody had heard of it here. Apparently, the cast of Mahaviran is shooting for another movie called SK21. They have been here for almost 3 months and will be here for another 45 to 50 days. The cast, the crew, some of whom are from foreign countries, are working here, and they could not stop thanking the Kashmiri people. They could not stop talking about the beauty here. They could not stop talking about the government and how easy it was made for them to make a movie. We also recently had a fully made in Kashmir film. Mr. Tariq Bhatt is a director here who did a movie. It was very well received here, and I do hope this will give some strength, some credence, some guts to the people here to start making Kashmiri movies again. We have a lot of people who are working in Bollywood right now. We have a lot of people who are working down south. And I hope that, for them to show these movies that they are making to their families and friends, their entire village back home, is just it's another level of satisfaction altogether. So yes, so it is a wonderful feeling. How we started this cinema hall, I don't know, call it a crazy idea, call it whatever it was. My father used to run the Broadway cinema here. And every evening, from 7 to 9, we would have an English movie show. The other times would be Hindi movies. And the English movie show would be a social event. People would come dressed up in all their finery. They would come here. They would have a proper dinner. It would be a meeting point. They would see the movie. And some would go back home walking. So that's somewhere or the other stuck in my head. And when I approached the family and I said, look, the kids have nothing to do here. Just forget kids. The families have nothing to do here. So that's when he said about setting up a cinema hall. To my surprise, the entire family immediately said, yes, not a bad idea. Let's not worry about the money. If we go down fighting. But as crazy as it seems, it worked out. It worked out. Yeah, that dream has come true. So.
Well, it certainly has worked out. I mean, we're looking at those visuals, and the news agencies also keep on pushing those visuals from Inox in Kashmir. It is the point if you want to talk about box office revelations for any other movie that's coming up. Dr. Sunim Khan, इस बात में तो कोई दो राय नहीं है कि आपकी आवाज़ बहुत ज़्यादा खूबसूरत है. We also know that you're a cinema enthusiast. You've seen the films back in the day. Would you like to sing a couple of lines, a little couplet, maybe a dialogue that you really, really liked from back in the day?
Whenever I think of Kashmir and Bollywood, there's only one movie which, makes the first flash in my mind. That is Jab Jab Phool Khile. And Mahmood used to say in that movie while, riding his shikara, it was his signature tone in the movie, and he used to sing Ya Ilahi Mitna Jandi Dadre Dil. He meant to say Darde Dil. but give it a Kashmiri tinge. The filmmakers turned it into Dadre Dil. So it stayed here. It stayed in our minds.
That really has stuck with you, hasn't it? Is there any dialogue that you really remember and really, really like? I mean, we know the Shami Kapoor and the Sharmila Tagore and those kind of songs on the shikaras.
Not a dialogue. Recently, I was listening to a song sung by Muhammad Aziz in one of the films called Khatron Ke Khiladi. I remember it was shown in Broadway cinema only, the cinema run by the family of Vikas. And going back to what Aditya said, that we should not be known only for conflict. We are a place with life, civilization, history, culture, whatnot. And the singer in that, in one of the couplets, and the singer in that, in one of the couplets says, तेरे सर की कसम मुझे तू इतनी खूबसूरत है, तेरे सर की कसम मुझे तू इतनी खूबसूरत है, पहाड़ों की जरूरत है न फूलों की जरूरत है, जहां पर तू कदम रख दे वहां कश्मीर बन जाए.
Wow.
So this is one of the extracts from.
What beautiful lines. Jahan tu kadam rakh de, wahan Kashmir ban jaye. Nirupama ma'am, I'm going to get done with the serious question that I have for you, somebody who's worked with the INB ministry. Is there room today for more collaboration between the society in Kashmir and the actors and the filmmakers out there? And if so, can you pinpoint exactly how one traverses through this open space?
There always has been. Collaborations never stopped. If you think about it, we've had a lot of talented actors and directors from the valley who have been working. I mean, I can just name two. Sanjay Suri, for instance. He's from the valley. He's done film. And Amir Bashir is there. He made Harud also in between, but it was, of course, a sadder film. The only thing, as Aditya also pointed out and Dr. Suneem said, the narratives and stories have to start changing. So the collaborations have to be more different kind of collaborations now, which talk about life in Kashmir as like Jab Jab Phool they showed you. A life, normal life, a normal life of somebody who plays a shikara, who's Shashi Kapoor, of course. He became a huge star after that. So the stories have to be changed. Collaborations have always been there. And what I would hopefully look forward to is more foreign crews coming. I mean, why can't we think of the next James Bond film being shot somewhere in the valley? You will be surprised.
Well, Goa Cop, James Bond, ma'am, maybe Mission Impossible next time around.
Why not? My prediction may come sooner than you think, honestly, because people want to shoot in virgin locations, and there are many brilliant locations all over Kashmir. People haven't seen half of them. Somebody who as passionate as Raj Kapoor had discovered Lolab Valley long back. That's why he had such a dedicated audience, and people went crazy with films like Bobby, which, of course, there's a Bobby hut, right? There, Hum Tum Ek Kamre Mein Band Ho was shot. It's still very well preserved in Gulmarg. In fact, since you were asking Dr. Suneem about dialogues, I remembered this poor man. There was the cine buff in Srinagar, I'm forgetting his name. He went and saw Bobby in, I think, Palladium about 50 times. And he went quite crazy. He used to just come out of the hall and go to everyone and shake their hand and say, "Hi, I'm Bobby. Mujhse dosti karoge?" I mean, that is the kind of impact films had on Kashmiris. And like I told you, all the film units loved the hospitable people of Kashmir, and they loved them back. So it was always a give and take. You come, you shoot here, and obviously we as an audience would love to watch what you shot. Satya Pe Satta was shot here. They created a set also, I think near Sonmarg, And so I've seen all these units when I was younger. I've seen Bemisal being shot in Oberoi Palace, now called Lalit. So
Nirupama ji, we've got a dialogue war going. It seems Dr. Suneem wants to come in. Dr. Suneem, over to you.
No, I just want to carry forward what she was saying. Not only Bemisal, we have a valley named after Betab.
Betab, of course.
Kasme Wade, one song was entirely shot in Amar Singh College. Kabhi Kabhi, again, it was shot in Kashmir. In the Hari Singh High Street Chowk, when the Goni Khan market starts, there is a Panwala by the name of Mithun Panwala. Back in the 80s, he had his hairstyle resembling that of Mithun Chakrabarti, and his the entire shop was, it was splattered with posters of recent releases of Mithun Chakravarti like Parivar, etc., so on and so forth. And with every release of Mithun Chakravarti like Dance, Parivar, so on and so forth,
Right.
you know, for the coming, he would mutter those dialogues. So when Ilaka released, Ilaka film, he would say this to every customer, every other customer coming to him. Teri
Well, so
baat ka kutta palum.
it wasn't just a.
But Suneem, there used to be this person very well known all across Kashmir for selling tickets in black. What was his name?
Hassan Pacha.
Hassan Pacha.
Well, you know, I'll tell you what, to all the panelists and Aditya, you as well, that the story is so gripping, the way that this documentary and the timing of the documentary is so nice. I've been smiling ear to ear throughout this particular, you know, show. It's lovely to be speaking to all of you. However, unfortunately, we're at a paucity of time. I will give the last word to you because that's how you ended the documentary as well. Kaisi ho Firdaus, Chinar kaise hain, Shikare kaise hain. Why did you think it was the apt poetic lines to end the documentary with?
Well, because we don't know the future. We don't know the future. We know the past, and the past has been spent in longing for cinema to return, and the past has been spent, unfortunately, in bloodshed, in violence, in stories of sorrow and depression. So there is a ray of hope through this cinema, because this is not just entertainment. This gives a ray of hope, of life, of brightness, of a vast skyline of desire in the common Kashmiri. So I hope what Vijay Dar and Vikas Dar have started in Kashmir, and that is a historic move, really starting Inox, a very bold and courageous move. The government is taking it forward. There are 4 cinema halls in North and South Kashmir that have also been opened now, and let's hope that this will be taken forward.
Let's hope
in spite of challenges.
Good sense prevails, and you know, like Vikas ji said, if he's going to go down, he's going to go down with a fight. Nothing less than that. On that note, let's leave it there. That bold note. Nirupama Kotru ma'am, many thanks for joining with us. Vikas Dharji, always a pleasure to be speaking to you. Dr. Suneem Khan, आपने इस show पर 4 चांद लगा दिए, हुजूर. And Aditya, what a beautiful piece of documentary. This is all the time that I have for you. Get on in the comment sections about how you like the show. Download the News 9 Plus application. We're going to leave you with the biggest snippet of the documentary. Do check it out, and if you like it, please download the application. Not a marketing gimmick. Trust me, you'll like it. You'll love it. That's all the time we have for you. Keep watching News 9.
Kashmir and movies together for magic. A magic that gave us Shammi Kapoor and Sharmila Tagore's Kashmir Ki Kali in 1964, Jungli in 1961, Roti, Daag, Kabhi Kabhi, Bobby, Janwar, as well as Bemisal.
सिनेमा और कश्मीर का बहुत गहरा रिश्ता है, घनिष्ठ जिसे हिंदी में कहते हैं.
इतनी खूबसूरत ये तस्वीर है, मौसम बेमिसाल बेनजीर है, ये कश्मीर है.
This was a love letter across the Dal Lake, the snow-capped mountains of Gulmarg, the majestic Chinars, and the beauty of Pahalgam. This was Kashmir in all its glory in 70mm silver screens across India and the world. Terrorist groups, bombs and grenade attacks left millions dead, displaced, with shattered silver screens across Kashmir.
10 अप्रैल 1993 की बात है जब ये इलाका सब जल गया.
Today, after 32 years of conflict and terror, it's a new dawn for Kashmiris. The first multiplex in the valley, Inox, has risen from the ashes of the cinemas lost to rekindle the same love of Kashmir and its cinema halls in a young generation that has never had the movie-watching experience in a theatre.
Cinema in Kashmir is as old as the Bollywood itself. The first theatre in Kashmir opened, that's Palladium itself, in 1932.
Some of the most romantic films have been shot here. जब फूल खिले, आरजू. जब फूल खिले had Mahmood playing a houseboat owner, a comic, of course, character. His iconic signature song from that movie is still etched in the memory of that generation. Ya ilahi, mitna jahan di, dadre dil.
सरजमीन हिंदुस्तान को बादशाह खान का सलाम.
इसी पैलेडियम सिनेमा के आगे यहाँ इसका शो और इसका लोगों का आना जाना यहाँ तांता बंधा रहता था. इतनी भीड़ होती थी कि लोगों को कंट्रोल करने के लिए पुलिस बुलाया जाता था.
There were threats, there were dictates from everyone. It's not only the militants and separatists, everyone. The first dictate was published in local newspapers in August, I think 18th of August 1989. Those days, a number of organizations used to be in a campaign against the cinema, against every entertainment media, including beauty parlors, these audio kiosks and everything, whatever was there. They thought that this fashion and everything, this should be banned, it should not be there.
It's not just films. There were no sports facilities. There were no malls. So imagine a youth growing up with no avenues of entertainment. It's crazy. I can't even imagine living in such an environment.
It is really tragic and sad that, when people don't allow something very normal, which is around the world. You go to Dubai, they have cinema halls, for God's sake. You go everywhere else,
From the Bollywood and, of course, the latest news bulletins, and they used to converge on street corners where they used to have the Kashmiri tea and finally discuss the latest politics. The common Kashmiri's heart beats for Bollywood. Even though it was denied to them for more than 30 years, they kept in touch, perhaps through radio and later perhaps through internet as well, to get the latest songs and travel far and wide from Jammu to Delhi and perhaps to Bombay as well to go to the cinema halls and watch the latest films.
Our grandfather, our father, mornings when they would be ready for their exams, they would not for a single day miss the advertisements on the radio. The radio would talk about forthcoming films, their film, their cast, their storylines.
So why should we only talk about the last 30 years? Why can't we talk about tomorrow? They also gave me the credit that if anybody can do it, you can do it. So I probably also got pumped up with that.
In our hearts, we made a promise to the people of Kashmir that we're going to show you a film here, we're going to make sure you sit in the auditorium and you see a movie how it's supposed to be seen.
I believe we are 10, 15 years too late already. Somebody 10 years ago should have taken this leap of faith. Policy making and leadership is all about taking leaps of faith. You can't be reactive. You can't play the safe game every single time.
The first day we started showing movies here, I had a lady come up to me and kiss my hand. So I was like, what are you, she said, I'm 34 years old. And this is the first time I've been inside a cinema. My parents have been telling me since I was 0 that we used to go there and we used to watch.
Watching